Hello, welcome in. There is this FPS free game that you've probably never heard of, but probably should have by now. It's a game called PlanetSide 2. It's for free, and I've probably put a few thousand hours into this so far, like a lot of other people have. This has a lot of different elements to it. It's a game that you can play socially with other people in squads. There's like communities which have formed and you can join one of the communities. You can also play as a solo player, and there's a lot of high skill ceiling involved with the game as well. It also has infantry combat, aircraft combat and land combat, and you can main whichever one you want to. So if you like vehicles, you can play in vehicles, or if not, you can go in and you can capture bases in a similar way that you would try to attack a base in Rainbow Six Siege, but just with a lot more people. In this game there's around say 1,000 people on each map, and they're going to be actively fighting each other. So you may have small battles with a few people, say 12 people, 24 people, and then in contrast you may also have a big massive fight with 200, 300 people in it, and everyone is going at it trying to capture the base. And this usually will happen during an alert, which is to determine which faction owns the continent. And this is something that happens every hour and a half, and that's your normal gameplay loop, as opposed to most games which may only last 10 minutes. But there are also like micro matches in the form of base captures, which usually will last between 4 minutes, and then if you factor in getting to the base, usually 6 or 7 minutes. And so if you are just hopping in for a quick game, that does also work. And there are these really technological advanced faction called Value Sovereignty. There's like a more communist faction called the Terran Republic, and a freedom loving faction called the New Conglomerate. You then also have a robot faction which is about trying to help whichever faction needs it the most. That's more if you're a solo player. There's a lot of different ways that you can play the game. If you just like vehicles, you could just do that in this game. There's also 4 massive continents, plus a new one called Osha which has recently been released. And this game has been getting massive bug fixes for years now, to a point where it's in a very solid state. Playing in infantry is pretty rewarding. I would say that it's fun. I really enjoy it. That's mainly why I play the game. There are also a lot of people that really like to play aircraft, and from what I understand it has quite a high skill ceiling, so you may take a few hundred hours to even get to a decent level at aircraft relative to some of the salty vets out there. You also have land vehicles, which has a lower skill ceiling and definitely is a lot more accessible, but still has a lot of depth to it, and you can run in armor columns with other players if you want to, on the fly. You don't have to be organized. Sometimes you just find another player and you start driving with them, and you may play with them for a few hours, if they start gunning in your tank. There's also a stealth class called the Infiltrator, which can stay hidden and snipe people, which a lot of people, especially when they first come to the game, like to play. There's also a jetpack class which allows you to fly around, a medic class which allows you to revive, and there's also a heavy class which is mainly used in combination with engineer, and they would normally run around together and get a bunch of kills. Even if it's just with randoms, you can get a bunch of kills with heavy assault. You've also got the max, which is a very big suit that you can put on, and every single player that puts it on will at least get a kill or two. Really fun class to use. This game does try to promote teamwork. There's a lot of discords now with a few thousand members in it, and each week they might have a few ops sessions, and these are sessions essentially where people will play together, and they may play in a group of 12 or 24 depending on the outfit. And that kind of close-knit community for a lot of people has a lot of benefit. Obviously, because you're playing with a lot of allies and enemies, you're going to want to try to cooperate with your allies in order to try to capture the continent. So you may end up working with other outfits in order to achieve a goal of capturing the continent. You may be talking about, where you're going to deploy your troops when the other person is, and that kind of stuff adds an extra tactical element to the game that I haven't really ever seen repeated. On top of this, there's a lot of new player missions that you can do if you're just getting into the game in order to start to understand it a little bit more in depth. And there's also a lot of things long term you can work towards. For example, there's some guns that you can get which you can only unlock after you've got a certain amount of kills, and there's other stuff that you can unlock after you achieve certain objectives, like killing certain types of vehicles. And that kind of stuff, even if it's just a reward for a camo, looks really cool and you feel rewarded when you get it. And a lot of games don't have that these days either. The new map which has come out is a beach map, and it's very much a more vehicle-centric map, and that is something that the devs find ways to accommodate into the meta even deeper. And so there is now this deep level of gameplay where essentially the vehicles are trying to kill the Sunderers, because people can use Sunderers to as spawn points, and then you're trying to defend the Sunderer, which is a spawn point, in order to capture the base. And so there's this fun metagame that goes around where you try to see who can hold the vehicle dominance of the hex, whilst also killing the amount of players required in order to capture the base without the opposition taking it over because they overrun you. It's really good to see the devs adding in water vehicles, because I think that that's something that the map of OSHA could really do with, since it's so much water based. So there may be like a submarine or something in the future. We do also have like competitive events in PlanetSide which are going to start popping up as well. Something called Outfit Wars, which I think is 48 people versus 48 other people in a closed environment, instead of on the live server where it's 1,000 people on one continent. This is a lot more competitive. And so if you do enjoy that more like competitive aspect, there's a lot of training which is involved in preparing for that event. And it's something that I think a lot of communities would welcome you into if that's something you're interested in. I think everyone likes to play at different levels, so there's certain communities which will focus on land vehicles, certain ones which like aircraft, there's other communities which focus on infantry, and some which try to incorporate all three into their gameplay. There's also some which are more casual communities and more hardcore communities, so for everyone there is always something. There's even some communities which are for solo players. The devs have also been very careful to continue to iterate on the continents that have been released, and so you constantly see improvements to the maps. That always keeps the game interesting and dynamic, whereas with a lot of games I've noticed they'll release the map and then they will never do anything with it ever again. I remember actually in Call of Duty 4 they would like add snow versions of the map, and that's as much as they would do. Same with Grand Theft Auto as well. I'm hoping that other game devs learn from the PlanetSide devs and start to iterate on the maps that they've already developed, because they can be changed to a state where they're hardly noticeable relative to their earlier versions, which is cool to see it evolve over time. Now I would be interested to hear, what do you guys think about this? Are any of you interested in PlanetSide 2? I'd love to hear in the comments. Have a great day. Until next time, make sure you're subscribed. Bye bye, GG.